for today. As we go into the 12 powers, we are continuing our journey into the 12 powers, which are our inner gifts. And we see Sean. I just thank you, Sean, for sharing your inner gifts with us today in this wonderful music. So thank you so much. But, you know, the 12 powers, these are gifts we all have. All of us have these. And we came into this life with all of these gifts. What the 12 powers do is they help us to access and work within our Christ consciousness. Now, the more that we work with our 12 powers, the more resilience we have. And right now, having resilience is kind of a big deal because we are in a time of extremes. So we work with the 12 powers, we get more resilience, we become a soul well lit. And it's because we are expressing our Christ consciousness. That's what the 12 powers help us do, express our Christ consciousness. So I've already talked about faith and strength and love. Faith is a foundational quality. It's with faith that we trust what it is that works through us, for us, as us. We trust the force that put us on this planet in the first place. And it helps us more fully understand what we are actually capable of. And then we have strength. Strength is our ability to look away from the negative input from our news media, look away from all the negativity on social media. Strength helps us look away from all that and back to the thing that we have faith in. So strength helps us focus on what we do want to create in this life. And then there is love, big cosmic love. I know I used this term a lot last week, big cosmic love. I had a couple of people ask me, it was like, well, what cosmic love? That's kind of weird, Deanna. I don't get it. It's Christ consciousness love. Love, big love is the way that Christ loved others when he said, love each other as I have loved you and love your neighbor as yourself. This is unconditional love, seeing God in all things, everywhere present, even the things we don't like. Because when we see God as everywhere present, it increases the incidences of attraction and unification in our lives. This is things coming together for our highest good and for the highest good of those around us. So today we're diving into wisdom. Wisdom is when we are able to blend what we know here and what we know here. Here I point to my heart, okay? That's wisdom. We're utilizing both what our head knows and we're using what our heart knows. This is how we are able to look at the hand that we are dealt and decide, okay, is this a winner or a loser? Because it's up to us, right? Knowing what to let go of in this life, knowing what to keep in this life, that all comes from wisdom. It's up to us. It's up to us. Now, Jesus called wisdom, he actually called it righteous judgment. And that is also what Charles Fillmore called it when he wrote this book, and it was in the early 1900s. So originally, the power of wisdom was called the power of judgment. And it just meant looking at something with discernment, observing it, and then evaluating it, using intuition, and then applying an action. But see, nowadays we have a negative connotation for judgment also. And so you could say there's a negative polarity and a positive polarity for judgment. The negative polarity would be condemnation. The positive polarity would be wisdom. Now, in the negative polarity, that's condemnation. It is when we look at a condition, we decide how we're going to perceive it. Okay, we might use our past personal experiences and project them onto a current experience, and that's how we perceive it. I know somebody who was bit by a dog when she was very young, and to this day, she hates dogs. If she sees a stray dog walking down the street, she'll call animal control on it, okay, because of that past experience. When we are in the negative polarity of judgment, or we're condemning, we are criticizing, we also might turn to our intellectual understanding, what we think we know, which is also influenced by what we don't know. We don't know. Like right now, everybody's a scientist, everybody's a medical expert, everybody is a political expert, right? We can find data to support our belief and make everybody else's wrong. We can find it. It's there. Now, Jesus shares what I think this is a hilarious story about this, like, knowing, needing to make somebody right and, or make them wrong. Okay, so Jesus's cousin was John the Baptist. And John the Baptist was out ministering to the masses before Jesus started his ministry. So John the Baptist, he'd show up in a town, everybody would gather, his critics would gather also to talk about him. And they say, that John, he never eats anything. He doesn't drink anything. That John, he's insane. He's full of the devils. Okay, he is insane. Then Jesus started his ministry. And Jesus was traveling around and he would go to those towns and the critics would gather and they would say, that Jesus, all he does is eat and drink. He's a glutton. All right. So some people are just looking for something to criticize. And this is in the negative polarity of judgment, right? And I think it's funny that even back then, 2,000 years ago, people still thought they had all the data to prove that they were right and that other person was wrong, right? They still had all the facts, right? They just knew. Now, when we're in the negative polarity of judgment, when we're condemning others, we have a closed mind, so we don't have access to new and valuable ideas. And there are a lot of new and valuable ideas out there right now. We get stuck in this human judgment, and human judgment is not just a cause of conflict. It is the cause of conflict. It's human judgment. So then we have the positive polarity of judgment, which is wisdom. Wisdom, that's where we observe, we discern, we evaluate something. Now, wisdom is divine in nature because it's allowing us to move into our centered self. Okay, the part of us that can be calm and then kind of look at things. It's non-reactive self, so we can observe, we can evaluate, we use our intuition, and then we decide what we're going to do. That's what we do. And we turn to our inner resourcefulness, right? Our inner being. Some people would call it the Holy Spirit, the God within, but it's our higher self. Okay, the coming from our Christ consciousness. Now, the disciple that represents the power of wisdom is James, the son of Zebedee, but he's the brother of John, the beloved, who represents the power of love. So they're brothers, and Jesus used to call them the sons of thunder, sons of thunder. That metaphorically is the representation of love and wisdom working together to accelerate the expansion of our own consciousness. Okay, the sons of thunder, okay, love and wisdom working together, that is the activity of our I am consciousness. Okay, that is being in our centered self, our centered self. Now, this is the importance of wisdom and love working together. Love all on its own can end up being misguided or impetuous, but love or wisdom without love can feel cold. So it can feel cold. The center for wisdom in our body is our solar plexus, because wisdom needs to work also with our intuition, right? So wisdom's not just a thing here, it's also working with our intuition. All right, now the Harry Potter character, woo, to represent wisdom. Y'all have probably already guessed which character this is, because he is the stereotype for wisdom, with his long flowy beard, his flowy robes, yeah, his little half moon spectacles that he wears. Our representation for wisdom is the headmaster at Hogwarts, Albus, Percival, Wulfric, Brian, Dumbledore. Okay. He is so wise. He's earned the respect of all of the teachers at Hogwarts. Even everybody in the magical community, even if they don't like him, they recognize his wisdom. They respect his power. Now, as you go through the stories of Harry Potter, at first, it can seem Dumbledore, he is playing his cards very close to the vest. Okay. Like they're like an inch behind his sternum. He plays his cards so close. Okay. And so he does not, it seems like he doesn't have compassion for Harry. He keeps a lot from Harry. And because he keeps so much from Harry, Harry actually struggles with what he doesn't know about himself, about his past, and about what is to come, and about what he's going to face. So Dumbledore was protecting him. One of the things that Dumbledore did that was actually very hard on him was when Harry was orphaned at 1 year of age, Dumbledore put him in a house with his aunt and uncle. And his aunt and uncle were horrible people. They were abusive. And the first 10 years, well, that 10 years that Harry lived with them, he did not receive love and nurturing. Okay, it was a very, very difficult life for him. Now, in Dumbledore's wisdom, he put him there because he knew it was the only place where Harry could be 100% safe from the dark forces of magic, which were looking for him. He had to be in a home with the real family members, blood relatives, so he could stay safe. Of course, when he turned 11, he got to go to Hogwarts, and Hogwarts could also protect him. But see, Dumbledore knew that his family was abusive, and Dumbledore had to live with that. Dumbledore actually lived with a lot of regret. He made a lot of mistakes, and some of them were very painful things that he could not fix. So he had to live with the pain of loss that he blamed himself for. Now, when we combine wisdom with love, this helps us to be able to live with mistakes that we've made, right? This helps us to be able to live with loss that we cannot do anything about. Because Dumbledore was able to do this. That's how he was able to carry on, carry the pain of all of his past mistakes, still be a wonderful headmaster at Hogwarts, and actually prepare Harry for what was to come with Voldemort, he who shall not be named. Okay. If Dumbledore had not been able to be at peace with his past, he would not have been able to serve the magical community. He felt the pain of his past, but Dumbledore was never a victim. Okay, he was never a victim. In the book of James, it says, but the wisdom that is from above, and above means our higher self, our Christ consciousness, okay, the spirit within us. Wisdom that is from the above is first pure, then it's full of peace, it's gentle, it is obedient, is full of mercy, and good fruits. Good fruits, those are solutions, okay? Wisdom is without partiality, and it is without hypocrisy. So wisdom is pure. It's not polluted with our ideas of how things should be. Wisdom contains none of our judgments. It's not influenced by our judgments. It's not influenced by our criticism. It is having a totally open mind, ready to just evaluate what is presented to us. One of the stories in Harry Potter is that Dumbledore had to discipline Harry and Ron because they crashed a flying car into the Whomping Willow Tree. Now, a couple of the professors, they were pretty mad about this, and they wanted the strictest measures taken. I think Professor Snape even wanted them expelled, okay? But Dumbledore did not let anybody else's views on it taint his perception, okay? He had an open mind. He was ready to evaluate, and he wanted Harry and Ron brought to him so that he could talk to them, right? He wanted to evaluate it before he passed judgment, before he decided what their discipline should be. So wisdom is pure. It's not influenced by other folks. Wisdom is also peaceful and gentle. There's no drama in wisdom. So the opposite of this would be reacting. Okay, reacting, wanting to lash out at someone. I watched a friend of mine struggle with this because he lashed out at somebody who said something mean, and it turned into this back and forth battle. When we are lashing out, when we are reacting, we're not in our centered self. We have no sense of calm to be able to think. And reacting is just us then trying to force our opinion on somebody else. Okay, that is what a reaction is. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. Okay, that's what happens with reacting. In one of the books, one of the Harry Potter books, there is a journalist who writes for a gossip magazine. Her name's Rita Skeeter. And she writes an article about Dumbledore that does not portray him in the best light. And then she's talking to Dumbledore, right? And she's hoping to get a rise out of him. So she asked him what he thought of her article. Well, he was very wise in his response to her. And his eyes twinkled. His eyes were twinkling when he said to her, I particularly enjoyed your description of me as an obsolete dingbat. He did not accept her invitation into conflict. Okay, he didn't see the need to lash out. He instead just went right into wisdom, into that inner resourcefulness, and just used humor to totally just fizzle. It just fizzled out, right? She did not get a rise out of Dumbledore. Our lashing out will always lead to more conflict. Our reactions will always lead to more conflict. Okay, wisdom lets us just see it with a grain of salt or see it with humor, just let it go. We're not going to change somebody else's mind, not by reacting. Wisdom is obedient. It follows the heart. Okay, wisdom is coming from our Christ consciousness. So it flows out through the lens of our higher self, right? Through the heart. So wisdom is an outpouring of the Christ consciousness into our behavior, into our activity, into our life. Wisdom is also filled with mercy. There's no partiality. There's no hypocrisy. Dumbledore was able to have an incredible amount of mercy because of his own past experiences. He had experiences with dark magic, and he did make choices that harmed others. And so when he met Hagrid, and Hagrid had been framed for a terrible crime and was never actually proven innocent, Dumbledore had mercy toward Hagrid and had faith in who Hagrid was in the moment. Dumbledore also had a lot of mercy toward Professor Snape. Professor Snape was a Death Eater. He was a villain. He's basically a villain. But Professor Snape made his choices out of weakness, out of the ego, right? Our little me, what Unity calls the ego, the little me who just makes choices in our life to keep us stuck in a small, tiny place, keeping us choosing from fear. And that's how Professor Snape chose. But Dumbledore had mercy for him. So he was able to have faith in them, who they were in this present moment. He didn't look back on the conditions of what they had been once upon a time. He was seeing them through the present moment and what the gifts were that they could bring right here and now. So he didn't judge them for something they did years ago. Wisdom also always brings with it solutions. Solutions are what get us moving through all the obstacles we feel like we're facing right now, all these challenges. Solutions are basically, it's the qualities of our centered self being called forth through us, right? So we get inspired, we get an idea, we try something new, we reach out, right? We do something a little different, okay, but the solutions are present. We're calling them forth. Now, to apply wisdom in our own lives, we don't have to be like Dumbledore. We don't have to have that long white beard. Dumbledore used wisdom. He expressed wisdom in really practical ways. That's how we use wisdom in our life, in really practical ways, in normal everyday circumstances. Dumbledore had mercy. Dumbledore discerned from the present moment. Okay, he didn't look to the past to blame anything in the past. Dumbledore wanted all the facts before he would decide on something. He wanted to be able to make an observation and evaluate and use his intuition. And he did not get caught up in other people's drama. Dumbledore did not accept invitations into conflict. Okay? Any of us can do that. Like from where we are right here on this date, any of us can express this kind of wisdom. We all have access to it. In the book of James, he says, if any of you lack wisdom, ask God, who gives to all liberally, and with grace. Just ask, it will be given. Wisdom is one of the graces. We don't have to earn it. It's just there, available to us. I like to move into wisdom by putting my hand on my heart and taking a nice deep breath and breathing into that hand, right? Yeah, that's a heart math technique, right? For getting us into coherence, heart-brain coherence, which just puts us in a state of being able to receive wisdom. It's like, just like that. Ask and receive. This wisdom is letting our higher self guide us forward. Okay, not our fearful self. Our fearful self is like a little toddler who should not be driving our bus. Okay, the fearful self needs to be buckled in the back seat. Okay, we can listen to it. And it's like, okay, I understand your concerns, but I'm the adult in this relationship. Okay, wisdom is the divine working through us for the highest good of all. Judgment, being judgmental, is not in our nature. That's why it doesn't feel good. Being judgmental turns on that constant cycle of needing to be right. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. Okay, judgment turns on that cycle and we cannot get out of that. And it feels terrible. Feels terrible to be stuck in that cycle. With wisdom, we can look past appearances. With love and wisdom, we can see God as everywhere present. This is the highest form of spiritual knowing. Seeing God as everywhere present, because to know love is to know God. And then wisdom is acting, being the activity of spirit in this life. We are, each of us, the activity of pure source energy in this world. Okay, we are the activity of that put the galaxies into their spin. We are the activity of that has the divine program in the acorn, so it grows into the mighty oak tree. We are the activity of all that. It is a divine program within us, right here and right now. That is working through us. That is the greatest harmonizing force in the world. The greatest. And then wisdom helps us to apply that into our life in practical ways. And that is how we create heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are the activity of spirit in a body. You are the heart and the hands of spirit in this world. You are a soul designed for growth and goodness. All of the stuff we talk about every Sunday, you're designed to do it. You're already designed. It is within your divine program. In everything you do, you are blessed. And so it is.